Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan here for, I think it's going to be a good podcast, but I'm not sure excited. Well, I'm just not sure how excited people are going to be for a tape review podcast about
they want to know.
Disgusting loss.
Hey, Geoff, going on our message board, right? Our board on Facebook. Seeing the posts, which are almost all on Wentz, they want answers. We've got them. We will give it. They're going to get it. So this is going to be. But I get your point because it's a postmortem sort of autopsy of what in the heck happened.
Right.
And we have so much information that we glean over the last 24 hours to 48. And it's Wednesday morning. Good, hello to everybody as they go into work. And the injury report comes out later today. Hopefully there won't be any more for the Eagles' sake. I mean, it's quite the 72 hours, Geoff. After the game, it's guys going on an IR, some minor moves on the roster. The Wentz situation, I mean, we knew this is coming when we were on 97.5 The Fanatic Monday night earlier this week, and
right,
knew the fans were pissed, and I get it. I totally understand. The fans are up in arms. They see what happens. You're expecting an easy win, and
yes.
They teased the fans were teased after a quarter and a half, and then it dissipated.
It really did. You mentioned the fans. Big shout out, big thanks to all the people, all the fans, all the listeners and viewers who have reached out to us since we did our first of many all season long Inside the Birds live pregame shows that we did from Goose Island Brewery. And I'll get into more of that in a second. But got a lot of great feedback. And then, of course, from our Monday night debut on 97.5 The Fanatic from 6 to 8. I really want to thank everybody who listened and who checked in from the message boards on Twitter and everything. So really appreciate all the love, and we're just trying to give it all back to you guys. And just a little bit more, Adam, on the Goose Island show that we'll be doing again on Sunday. It'll be you, me, Trey, and the GOAT, Greg Cosell, once again, like it's going to be all year long. It'll be at Goose Island in Philly. Now, this time, Goose Island, which is in Fishtown, is going to open at 9:30. To get ready for the Eagles game. Good. So if you're coming in and you want to come see the show this time, you couldn't do it last time. This time you can come and check out the show while it's going on live and even be part of the background. We can get like an ESPN College Game Day type of vibe.
Cool. Great idea. Yeah.
Socially distant, though. Socially distant.
Yeah.
Gotta make sure.
The weather was incredible last week, low 80s. It's going to be the mid-60s and sunny as of now as a Wednesday morning. So do it. The background, and it's funny because I couldn't tell. I wasn't looking at a monitor, and then I saw a bunch of tweets come to you and I, and they were taking a picture from their computer screen or their phone of how beautiful the background was, and really just you could not have asked for a better show. Geoff and I, we put this thing together in a matter of 72 hours. Not just the cast, the talent, but the script for the show, and. You go in putting together a television show, you have no idea. I mean, usually these things are 6 months of planning. We got 3 days.
Yeah, no, it was it all came together. I was at 12:01. I was the happiest man on the face of the earth because we had made it through and put out a good show.
Great job by you, though. You were phenomenal. You really were.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys made it easy. It's going to be even better this Sunday for a couple of reasons. One, we'll be even more prepared. And two, as I'm mentioning, Goose Island Brewhouse will be open at 9:30. And anybody who comes, will get to experience Goose Island's new brew. It's called the Fly PA IPA. So if you're a big IPA beer drinker, Goose Island's going to have their Fly PA beer for people to come have. And so you can come out, drink the Fly PA, watch us do Inside the Birds pregame live presented by DraftKings. And the first 50 people in attendance are going to get comped a Fly PA beer.
Nice.
Of Goose Island.
Oh, man. And let me tell you, in Philly, they start early. Okay, I used to be a tailgater back in the late 90s, early 2000s before I started covering the NFL for a living. And I've really not talked about this before, I don't think. I'm a former season ticket holder for many years, from the early 90s to 02. Right when they opened the link, I sold them. I sold my seats on eBay in 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, the SBL and the seats. I charged a lot of money, and eBay put the clamps on me. You're not allowed to put the money on eBay, how much you're selling for. You have to do it privately. You just say, hey, here's where they are. Contact me within. And I think an accountant from Abington, right off the turnpike, by the way, the Willow Grove exit. And I met the guy in his office.
Is that a rivalry, by the way? Abington and Cheltenham?
Cheltenham, yeah, that was my big rival. Eddie
okay.
George was there for a while, but of course I'm older than Eddie. But anyway, yeah. So fans love to hit start early here. There's no question about it. I love it. Before we get the show started here, the background that we had was incredible, and I am encouraging you to go. If you're deciding where you're going to go on Sunday morning, I probably, Geoff, will not go to the game and watch it somewhere because just the setup, not a lot of reporters will be in the press box. I can't see anybody after the game. I'm not going to be able to talk to anyone after the game in the hallway, underneath.
Right.
Won't be able to see anybody. So I could watch this game anywhere, and who knows? I might stay at Goose Island and watch it there. Oh, man, that big screen they have is awesome.
I was going to say, big screen. We might be able to do that. Maybe
it is a great venue. I was not familiar with it. It's such an easy on, easy off of 95. And it's right next to the Fillmore. Plenty of parking. It's just a great area, right in the front of Fishtown, right off of Delaware Avenue. Yeah,
just remember for everybody who's listening who might want to go, there will be social distancing and mask wearing. That's mandatory. Yes. All right, let's get into the pod. We've got the injury situation we have updates on. We've got some roster moves, including a big one that we'll talk about. And then we'll get into the tape review on both offense and defense and what we were able to detect ourselves and what we got from our sources. So injuries, we'll start with kind of the bigger names, Adam. Miles Sanders with the hamstring. I can't imagine, unless he has a setback, that he's not going to be ready for Sunday against the Rams, unless you're hearing differently.
No, okay, so I had to do some investigative work because it was hard to find out exactly what day that he suffered his grade 2 hamstring strain, as we were told. The best I could come up with it was August 18th.
Right.
It makes it 4 weeks now, Geoff, that this injury's happened. So right now, to me, like you said, I agree with you. Unless he has a setback, I mean, Doug Pederson already said he's going to up the practice participation of a couple key players.
Right.
So I don't know why he wouldn't practice fully this week, unless there's a little bit of fluid left. Last week, it's a funny story. So I don't know. I didn't even pay attention. So I was putting my fantasy lineups on Friday because when I'm busy on Sunday, sometimes I forget to turn them in. And a friend of mine saw that I pulled Miles Sanders out, and he texted me and goes, "Dude, you know something." And I go, "What are you talking about? If Casey doesn't play, I may forget to pull him out." So I agree with you. To sum it up, it's just kind of funny how people think I know something. No, it's just
well, you do know things.
It's just, man, they need him. That. I was not impressed at all with Boston Scott, for the record.
No, the whole running game, I think that's a lot to be desired, and a lot of that had to do with the blocking up front. We'll get into that. The blocking should improve because Lane Johnson told Derek Gunn recently on the new Gun on One podcast that he will play. So he has now eliminated any doubt about his availability. So again, barring a setback, you're going to have Lane Johnson and Miles Sanders. And I think that people should not just overlook how vital that is. I feel like the whole Eagle community now is like, oh man, we're going to be 0-2. This Rams team is too good for us. The Eagles are in trouble. And I can't understate how much of an upgrade having Lane Johnson, not that Jack Driscoll played poorly, but just having Lane Johnson there and Miles Sanders to run the ball, what that can do for the offense.
No doubt about it. Miles Sanders gives them juice, which they don't have. Scott was not impressive. I got that confirmed from someone who graded the tape for us. Mm-hmm. And he's good outside the tackles. It's just what he is. He's sort of, as Greg Cosell calls him, a satellite back. He's not quite an inside runner. He's outside of formation, and when you get him out in space, he's pretty effective. They just couldn't do it. I don't blame him as much as they just could not create any space for him to run. Lane Johnson told as you said, he's going to play, told our friend Derek Gunn on his podcast, Gun on One, that he said he's playing. Now, Lane confirmed the injury. It was surgery. Right. He didn't go into what it was or where it happened. We know that it was done locally. We also know it was by the same doctor who did Jalen Mills' foot.
Right.
Lane, I believe it happened 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Lane said 2 weeks ago. It was definitely over 2 weeks ago. The fact of the matter is, though, Geoff, as I said on Sunday, even before we knew that he wouldn't play, it would behoove him to wait 1 or 2 weeks. I have no idea how effective he's going to be. I know how tough he is. No one ever questioned that. He had a surgery, the tightrope, which is generally you could come back within 4 weeks. There's going to be some pain and some soreness, but he's a tough guy. And he did confirm, as I suspected, it was tied to last year's high ankle sprain and the residual effects of that. And actually, what he did say on Derek's show was his ankle issues go back several years. So this is, like he said, there's some scar tissue there, and you hope for the best there. And that's kind of where they are with Lane.
All right. Well, even a 90% Lane, 85% Lane is probably going to be a big upgrade. We'll see. I have a feeling that's going to be a big topic for us on the Inside the Birds pregame live show presented by DraftKings on Sunday. We'll get Trey Thomas's opinion on that as well. Alshon, start practicing this week?
I
was not sure what Doug was going to do.
Yeah, I've not been given an indication he's practicing this week yet. The way that I do see it, though, once he starts practicing, he'll play the next week if he doesn't have a setback. They need the way this goes is with the Lisfranc Frank injury, because it's a midfoot repair. You have to see the degree of soreness the next day. He's going to be sore. Yeah, he's been running for a few months,
right?
But running is not football practice. So you got to see how he handles it. Boy, do they miss him. Man, do they miss him this past game. I'd said on our last show that, someone said to me that they really need a possession receiver that's dependable other than Greg Ward, who has size. Arcega-Whiteside, I know that I was told that Wentz missed him on one potential throw. He didn't even have a target in the game. Mm-hmm. But, man, they got to get something out of their receivers, man. They just did not get enough out of them.
No, we'll get into that. Javon Hargraves, obviously the pectoral strain and the hamstring strain. Yeah. You're going to have to see what he's able to do in practice if he can get it ramped up.
Yeah, Geoff, he didn't work last week. That's not a good sign.
I know. No, not a good sign at all. It feels snake bit a little bit. He had the pec strain, and as we detailed when it happened, it was supposed to be it wasn't a tear, and 4 weeks he was going to be, generally all right, and you thought he might be able to play in the opener. But then the hamstring developed out of nowhere, I guess, and it just sets him back. So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Brandon Graham. So Brandon Graham had a concussion. I think most people saw on TV that kind of glassy-eyed look that he had. It looked kind of bad, just watching him sitting there. But I've been told that there is optimism that he's going to be able to get out of the protocol sometime later this week and get on the field and practice. Does that mean it's going to happen? No, of course not. With a concussion, you can wake up and not feel great. But I've been told by two sources that Brandon's been feeling good, looking good. Again, that doesn't mean anything other than what he looks like right now and what he feels like right now. But there is optimism that he'll be able to get on the field at least, for one practice this week and then be ready to play. And Adam, if you look at the defensive line, they really, really need it. I mean, we know, and let me just add to this that with Vinny Curry, he went on IR today. I can tell you it's the 3 week, 3 game IR. 3 week IR.
Three games. It's got to be 3 games.
Yes, 3 games. But there's no bye week, right? I mean, it's going to be the next 3 weeks. They're playing teams.
Yes. So yeah, man, I'll tell you what. If Graham doesn't play, Geoff, well, first of all, they ended the last game with just 2 DNs, which is Tuhill was not. He didn't dress. They dressed. I guess 4 DNs because we know Malik Jackson could play in, and he did in this game,
right?
This past game. So yeah, look, we don't know as of Wednesday morning. We don't know what Graham's availability is, but as you reported, now at least he's feeling good. Mm-hmm. But he's got to get out of the protocol. There's a series of steps that you got to get back on the practice field. The earliest, obviously, he'd be able to practice would be Friday, which is the light work, and Saturday's a walkthrough. But, man, if they could get him clear, that would be huge. The good thing is, Geoff, this game is at home, so they don't have to travel. Right. It is really hard, a couple of doctors told me, to get cleared when you're on the road. So it's a situation we'll see. So on Curry,
he was playing well, Adam. Yeah. I mean, I went back and watched the tape. It's hard to notice because he started. So, okay.
Yeah.
And he didn't even know. I was told he didn't even know he was going to start. I think he suspected from what I was able to gather that maybe Josh Sweat, because Josh had such a good camp, that Josh would start. But we know going back to 2017, he starts because he's good against the run. It also enables you to keep Josh limited in his snaps because of the knee. You're trying to preserve him for the long haul. He was playing well. I think he had 4 tackles coming from a rotational DN position. He put some there was a pressure on Haskins. And what happened was, and you go back and see it, his foot got tangled up as he was rushing the passer with either a defensive lineman or offensive line. It tripped him up, and you could tell he thought he was going to be okay, but then it hurt so much he literally had to crawl before he could get up, and so it looked a lot worse than it is, though, because I thought when I saw IR it was going to be torn hamstring. He had the MRI and everything like that, but apparently it's just going to be the short-term IR. Now that he's hoping to be back after 3 weeks.
Is it a strain? By the way, is it a strain?
It's yes, it was described to me as a strain. It's not a grade 3. It was not.
Well, no, grade 3, Geoff, he would not be back for close to 2 months if it was a grade 3.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's saying it's going to be closer to 4 weeks, and then we'll see after 4 weeks. It's hard to say he's going to be back in 3 weeks or 4 weeks because it's a hamstring. You never know.
Right. So Josh Sweat has been a great story. I know we're just doing injuries here. I just want to say one thing. This is his third year. Mm-hmm. He's gotten better all the time. This has been a great story development, but I'm telling you, they're asking for it. If you keep playing all these snaps, that leg, as Greg Cosell told us on our pregame show last Sunday, when Greg watched the Florida State tape, he could see he was dragging his leg, the bad leg.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I give the guy credit. This has been a great draft pick for a fourth rounder who most teams thought would be only one contract guy, and he still might be. But the fact of the matter is, to this point, he's been great. He played the most snaps in his career in a game, in 49 snaps out of 70. That's a lot for him. But he had to. He is a really talented player, and this has been a really good story for people beat their drafts up. That 18 draft's actually pretty good, but they only had 5 picks, but they've actually gotten a lot of mileage out of that draft.
Yeah, that was Goddard, that was Maddox, that was Sweat, and Mailata really came out of that, right?
Mailata, yes. Mailata was at the 18 draft, correct?
Yeah, no, that wasn't a bad draft at all. I liked and you really got a good view of it from the TV angle because they replayed the sweat sack. Oh God!
How did he get under?
The bend on that was fantastic. I thought it was.
I can't believe it because, as you just said it, I remember I have Verizon Fios, so I have. There's a pretty good slow motion you could use. You hit the pause and use the fast forward button, and it just goes frame by frame. And I saw him dip, and I was like, "Holy shit!" There's my curse. I haven't cursed in months.
Well, there you go. Like, extra listens.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know he could bend like that. That was pretty good, man. Wow, he is. When I called him a much junior case of Clowney, he's built the same way.
Right, with the long arms and the tall build. Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Bad news in the secondary. Craig James, who we talked about so much, having a really good camp and surprisingly giving the boot to Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones and making it as the top outside corner. And we mentioned it's good that Craig James made it. He's a good special teamer. But the bottom line is the Eagles are going into the year very thin at cornerback as far as if one person gets hurt. Now, their backup got hurt, so they're not in peril yet. But if Maddox or Slay get hurt, they're in peril. It's like last year all over again.
Yeah, it is. It is. So I was told that James could play this year here because they're loaded at slot corner. He's going to play. He would have played more outside than inside. So he's on IR. Mm-hmm. What I do believe will happen, they protect on their protected list of the players they protected on IR. Excuse me, on the practice squad. Trevor Williams is protected, and I fully expect him to be signed off of it. He'll be like the call up on Saturday. I don't see how they can't because you can't bring someone off the street and think like this guy's going to play. And by the way, as of Tuesday night, generally what happens is you get all your street free agent signings Tuesday so they could be there at Wednesday. So I don't see it. It's got to be Williams. I don't see them taking anyone off the street. And Trevor Williams started for the Chargers, folks. We got a lot of questions about him in the spring. Mm-hmm. And then they cut him, brought him back, cut him, and now they brought him back once again. So I would expect him to dress as the fifth corner on Sunday.
Oh boy, and I guess you hope that he doesn't have to play because you want your corners to stay healthy and have your main personnel out there. So we'll kind of get a bearing on that, and we'll talk about that during the pregame show as well. Adam, I want to get into some big roster moves that have been made. First, we have a new partner that I want to tell people about, and I think people should get really excited about this business. It's called BetQL. And what they are is a top-of-the-line analytics and sports betting data service, right? And so I think that's pretty cool. A lot of people are into wagering now. You just saw that, was it the link that the Eagles are going to have a deal with Fox Bet to have like a lounge where you can go in the stadium and bet when people are allowed back in the stadium.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that. So that's cool for customers to hang out in. So if you want to get an advantage over the sports books with NFL coming back, you've got to download BetQL. It's the only app you'll need to make smart bets this season. Their best bets algorithm scans over 350,000 bets per year to give you a best bet recommendation for every game, and it gives you the reasoning why. Why are people trending this way? Why is the bet going that way?
Hey, Geoff, I always ask that question, and I understand in Vegas the lines makers will move the number to make sure the money's sort of balanced out. I totally get that.
Right.
But I also wonder sometimes about the public versus the sharps.
Oh, I think that's huge.
Yeah, so, that stuff I always find fascinating what happens with that. So that's awesome.
So as you were saying, BetQL also has tons of other tools like sharp data, so you can see who the pros are backing and then the line movement, so you can jump on betting opportunities in real time, and you can save all your picks in one place. So you head to the App Store or Google Play Store and download BetQL, and you can also head to betql.com, and if you enter the promo code BIRDS20, you'll get 20% off your first payment. That's BIRDS20 for 20% off your first payment at BetQL. So I'm really excited about being partners with them, and I think it's a pretty cool service. I also have a little gambling thing I noticed regarding the Eagles game coming up this week that we'll talk about.
Ooh. Okay.
But let's get into the nuts and bolts here. The big signing, of course, they signed veteran guard Jamon Brown.
Yeah, Jamon Brown.
Yep. Jamon Brown off the Bears practice squad. This is, to me, is a really good move. I mean, he's a veteran. He started 47 games. He's played in 60. He is automatically, by experience alone, anything better than you were going to get at what you saw at right guard, whether it's Nate Herbig or possibly even Matt Pryor, Adam. It's the only question is how soon can they get him ready to play?
Yeah. So a couple things with Jamon Brown. There was a point in his career he was probably in the top 24 of guards in the National Football League. He was actually very good, and then he regressed. Went to Atlanta, signed a decent deal, got benched there. He was with the Giants. I think he was actually traded from the Rams to the Giants. But anyway, he's bounced around. He's sort of regressed here. But as you just said, he had a lot of starts behind him. He's familiar with the offense because he's with Chicago. It's West Coast terminology. He'll be able to sort of matriculate over time. I've seen it happen, but it rarely happens that a guy you just brought in off the street, in this case from another team, in 3 days could be starting. I never rule anything out, but it's hard to imagine that he would play. But now you get him in. He's going to be there for today's practice on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. They'll go through their walkthrough, and they'll have a decision to make. If he looks good, hey, never know. But the point about this is they're getting an experienced guy that's done it before. He's been a starting guard. He's been in a lot of important games, and the Eagles know this player. They've gone up against him, so this is actually a pretty good move.
Yeah, I spoke to a league personnel guy who has watched a lot of tape on Jamon Brown and scouted him a lot. So he had a very good handle on who Jamon Brown is. First of all, he's a third-round pick of the Rams in 2015 who had a pretty good early start to his career. I mean, he played like a third-round pick. He's been in the league for several years. He started a lot of games. That's good. So, again, that's an instant upgrade over what the Eagles were going to have. The guy told me he's a good athlete for his size. He's 6'4", 330 pounds, big and talented, and he thinks he has average instincts and awareness, but that his pass pro is much better than his run blocking. He's got a big, long frame, and he anchors really well. That's when he thinks his anchor is pretty good. This guy said he was surprised, and because I brought this up, I said, well, given offensive line play, why would the Bears have not protected him on the practice squad, which you can do now?
Yeah.
And you know what he said to me? He said, you know what, that's a really good question, and he's kind of surprised that they didn't either. So it's almost like a good steal for Howie there. I think that was a good, shrewd move.
Yeah, it's a smart move. Really is, and it's badly needed. They've got some serious challenges with depth and experience on the interior of their offensive line, particularly at guard. So that was the move that they had to make, and they haven't signed a veteran tackle off the street yet, and I expect that to happen at some point over the next 3 to 4 weeks. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because unless they're willing to go with Jordan Mailata, if he needs to play, if Lane Johnson has a setback, I know Jack Driscoll did some good things. We'll get into that in a second. it would be nice if they could find a veteran on the street who could play right and left tackle that started games. That Jeff Stalin could trust. That to me is the way I would rephrase it is this way. It would not surprise me if they sign a veteran right/left tackle. Really would not.
Okay. It's weird because they signed Opeta, and now they're kind of, I don't want to say they have a lot, but I mean, they've got their 5 with Jamon Brown in there, and then Pryor 6, Opeta 7, Herbig 8, Driscoll 9. If they bring in another one, maybe that means one of those guys goes to the practice squad or gets released.
Yeah, and you can. Right. You could put one of the veterans on the practice squad. Now, the only thing with Opeta, he's a one-position player. He cannot play center.
Correct. Same thing with Brown, by the way.
What's that?
Same thing with Jamon, the guy they just signed.
Right. He's only a guard.
He can't play tackle. Yeah.
Right. He's only a guard. So that kind of restricts the versatility. But that's it. Yeah. And by the way, it was Deontay Burnett was protected once again. McGill, who had one nice play in the game.
Yes.
Joe Osman's back. He's protected. And Trevor Williams is protected. It would be a pretty major upset if Trevor Williams is not added to their roster by 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday.
Right. Is it? Do you think Osman also, depending on what happens with Derek Barnett?
Yeah, it's another one. Right. That's the point, though. They're going to know after Friday's practice where they're at. Friday's the last day of practice. And by the way, it's a light day. It's the latest. It's just over an hour. They're going to know where they stand on that, who they need to call up and so forth. But look, they've got a lot of roster maneuvers to make here. They've got to be honest with themselves. They cannot go in with a lack of depth. The good thing is that this last game was in the low 80s and really warm. This game is supposed to be in the mid 60s. So weather's not a factor.
Right.
But it is because they had no offseason and no preseason. Conditioning still is challenging, and they have so many players hurt. You got to have enough guys and take advantage of these rules. They're special this year, and they probably will not be back again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's almost like these rules were drafted up with the Eagles in mind for the last few years. I'm kidding, but I'm really not kidding.
I get it.
It's amazing how fortuitous
the Chargers
are.
Or the Chargers.
Or the Chargers.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the tape review first. I want to tell everybody football's back, and that means it's time to throw on your Eagles gear and make sure you don't fumble your grooming below the waist. Our partners at Manscaped are here to save your boys from a Fletcher Cox-style hit. So you make sure you stay clean and take care of yourself where it matters most. Manscaped's here with a surefire touchdown with the best tools for your grooming experience. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code ITB at manscaped.com. These are great breaks for getting 20% off. That's a lot.
That's awesome.
Off with free shipping.
I wish our sponsors, and I love that they're doing 20%, because when I get promo codes from whatever promos you see, I'm pretty much going to search for 20%, not 10%.
Yeah.
So kudos to Manscaped and BetQL for stepping up and giving good percentage. That to me is enticing.
There you go. That's right. Promo code ITB at manscaped.com. And the football season, you got to audible from your ordinary and choose Manscaped for your most important male grooming needs. All right, let's go through the tape review. And obviously we're going to start with the offense because that stood out as much. And I'm kind of curious, I don't think anybody can get a whole lot from what Doug Pederson said other than this, Adam. I mean, he was pressed on it. And he finally said, look, we are continuing to coach this, and we're going to continue to do that. And that goes back to what I'm saying is that people want to be equally blameful sometime of the player and the coach. And do the coaches have to work harder on him? Maybe. I don't know what the level of accountability they can get to, though, without saying, all right, you're on the bench. That's not going to happen. Carson's got to take it upon himself.
Yeah. So you said something in our Monday show, which I thought was probably of this week. And I've listened to a lot of talk radio because you and I have had this intel on the way that Wentz has been coached since 2016. We kind of have a pretty good idea from talking to probably half a dozen people. One thing that they all say is Carson must be coached hard. I mean, really hard, because he came in a smart kid. I know it was D1AA, but he played in a pro offense. He came in as a smart guy who thought he knew everything. And they had to knock that out of him. He had to be cut down a peg and coach really, really hard because they didn't quite know this until you don't know until you coach a guy. And, over time, Frank Reich and DiFilippo primarily coached him, particularly DiFilippo in 16 and 17. As it is in most buildings, the quarterback coach spends the most time with the quarterbacks.
Right.
In this case, the word was coming out of their building that DiFilippo and Carson, you could say they butted heads. You've got a type A quarterback and a type A quarterback coach. So obviously they're going to clash, but in a good way. So the way that it was explained to me by a couple team sources was that 17, why did Carson break out? They made some adjustments in his mechanics. His mechanics were kind of pristine, like really good. If you put it on a 10-point scale, they're about an 8.5, 9. And then DiFilippo leaves, Reich leaves, and then the regressions start. 18, he had the bad back, the back fracture. But the funny thing about that year was, and I'll get into why someone pretty smart gave me an opinion on why this happened, but his completion percentage, Geoff, went up to 69%, which I never thought I'd say about Carson Wentz. It's usually 62, 64% is kind of where his range is. Now, There's a reason for it. Though his average per pass attempt was pretty decent, that's not really what happened. If you studied his passes, if you charted them, they're mostly mid-range. He did not test downfield. I can't quite explain why he didn't throw it downfield in 18, but it was a lot of dink and dunk, mid-range to Ertz, but very little, and obviously a Goddard when he was healthy, and Jeffrey, but they didn't really throw the ball downfield very much. No one really knows, but except for the fact they didn't have Deshaun Jackson. They didn't have that one speed guy.
Remember, they did try to bring in they brought him in, the guy from the Ravens and the Dolphins in Minnesota. I can't
Mike Wallace.
Mike Wallace.
And he got hurt in the first game.
Yeah, that really hurt them. He was their only speed option. Yeah.
Right. So that he did. Mike Wallace has never heard from him again. He never played in another NFL game.
I know.
Unfortunately, after he broke his foot or leg, whatever the heck it was. But
crazy.
So you started to see, from what I'm told, some inconsistent mechanics, but not anything like we would see in 19. But you did start to see a little bit off of coaching tape. The TV tape, you could see a little bit, but you're guessing because you could see where the ball. The only thing you really could see on TV tape consistently is where the ball placement is, and then you guess where his footwork is because on TV tape you only get one angle. It frustrates me, and I've said this to some people in network television. Why the hell don't you give us different reviews? You see, when we see the bowl games, like the Orange Bowl, the Rose Bowl, they'll have all these. They'll have all 22. You have a sideline. You get everything. Why can't we get these for NFL games? It's frustrating. Mm-hmm. But I do know this: his mechanics in 19, the real regression with mechanics started in 19. And Greg Cosell did a phenomenal job. We're gonna dial that up again for this show on Sunday. Prior to the Rams game at 10 a.m. Eastern, folks, do not miss it. We're gonna pick Greg's brain again, and I kind of know because I'm gonna mention what a great source told me this week, but we're gonna get to the bottom of it. Now, one source told me, and this I've never heard this before, Carson's mechanics. He's a freelancer. I go, what the hell does that mean? I didn't quite understand. He goes, he doesn't really follow the rules for footwork sometimes. He moves when he should move. I think Cosell said he sometimes falls away from throws, but he freelances his footwork. You can't do that. He cannot get away with it, Geoff. So to sum this up, his footwork right now is not good. He's pointing his foot sometimes not right. It's too far down, and that causes the ball to go up. It always, folks, when you watch the game Sunday, if you could get any kind of good camera angle, slow it down if you're at home, watch his feet. That's where it starts. You'll know if he's going to be inconsistent with his mechanics by starting with his feet.
Yeah, it's interesting also. It's the mechanics coupled with the mentality. I was speaking with a league personnel guy, not on the Eagles and not even in the NFC East, but he's seen Carson, and we were talking about the game, and he said to me, why does Carson have to play hero ball all the time? He said, why hasn't he just learned through all the hits and everything just to be a more efficient quarterback? And I said, that's the big question. That's what Adam and I talk about all the time, and so many others, is how can someone who gets hit as much as Carson Wentz has gotten hit and had the injuries that Carson has had not want to make the adjustments to be a little bit more economical with his, not only his mechanics, right, but also his delivery of the football and the timing. And it's look, I mean, maybe they win the next few games and we're not talking about it, but it does seem to come up at really inopportune times.
Yeah, I would say that Carson knows, you heard him after the game. He took responsibility. All great quarterbacks do this.
Right.
But I want to get back to what you had said on our Monday show about, is the message being received? I don't know Prez Taylor. I'm not going to guess at how he coaches. I just know the way that Reich and DiFilippo and Pederson coached him in 16 and 17. But I've heard he's very smart. Smart does not make you a good coach. I've learned that the hard way, covering this business for two decades. It's the way that you coach. It's your style. How you mentioned earlier, how they holding him accountable. And you don't need to bench him, but you show them the tape whenever they watch tape on Monday and Tuesday. Carson knows, he sees it. And when he freelances, as this guy told me, with his footwork and his shoulder roll and not getting a good base, you seeing it. And you were just talking about it. This West Coast offense, which has sort of been bastardized in recent decades by Andy Reid and Doug Pederson, it's not the same West Coast offense we grew up with.
Right.
But in this offense, there's so much built in there for you to be successful. And you were just talking about it. Take the goddamn dump off, man. It's right there. Take it up. Boston Scott's to your right. He's your sidecar. Take it. He doesn't want to do it. I mentioned on our last show, Deshaun Watson's the same way. He runs around. He won't throw the football. He waits. He waits. Throw the damn football. It's right there. You don't have to make the big play every time. They'll be there. Deshaun was not open. People want to know about what happened. Why didn't Deshaun play more snaps? That's nothing to do with snaps. Jack Del Rio had a scheme. They were not going to give up deep balls. That's just the case. That's it.
Right. And you know what? We killed Doug a little bit. And why didn't you have more short stuff? Why didn't you have more slants?
Yeah.
He could have had more slants. But one thing that I don't think was very obvious to the naked eye watching the game was that there were a lot of shallow crosses built into those plays that we saw. And they just, weren't gone to. So that is what you're talking about, the shorter stuff that can get, especially when you're playing a cover two and you got guys free across the middle. But for whatever reason, Carson did not take when they were there.
One thing I want to add. Yeah. Here's okay. The run game. Now this is a little bit high tech. What I'm about to say, but the way it was explained to me in terms of the run game, there were some plays. I couldn't tell you how many there were, but there were some plays where Wentz should have gotten them out of some run calls.
Right.
That were not going to the right side. He should have changed the play. Or move the whatever it is, move the protect, move the line, whatever you have to do.
He's usually good at that.
Right. And there were some missed run calls where they should have ran right instead of left. And that can't happen. It just was not, look, he didn't play well. I mean, but to finish this off before we move on, I'm going to repeat what I said last year. The head coach needs to take responsibility here. It can't be all on Prez Taylor. I get that he's a coach. I've never met this guy, by the way. I don't know much about him other than people speak well of him.
Yeah.
But there's been a regression here. The head coach has to take responsibility. He needs to reach this guy. You need to be able to reach your players. The reason why the players love Doug is they respond to him. Well, the quarterback has got to respond. And I don't know what they have to do, close the door and get after him, whatever. I know you don't need to yell and curse at him, but you need to he needs to do what he's told. Because it's hurting the passing game in a severe way.
Yeah. By the way, Prez Taylor, there's got to be something about him that's very impressive because he is one of the few holdovers from Chip Kelly's staff. I believe Chip Kelly had brought him in as like one of those quality.
Well, they're actually 6 or 7 coaches. Yeah, actually 6 or 7 coaches from Chip Kelly's staff,
and they're impressive. Stoutland is one.
Yeah.
For Deuce. Justin Peele. Well, Deuce, I don't consider it because he predated Chip. He's really Andy's guy. So Chip just kept him because Jeffrey Lurie was like, "You're keeping Deuce Staley." Yeah, not to say that Chip wouldn't have. I'm just saying he's not a Chip brought in by Chip.
Right, one of the Pagnetti brothers. I don't know which one, but fact of the matter is this: it's got to be better. It's only the first game, and we're not folks. If you're new to our show, we're not fans. We're reporters who also analyze the game. It's not our job to cheer for anybody. But I hate bad football. It drives me up a fucking wall. Excuse my language, but it bothered me. All
right, that's 3. Now we're going to get letters from people.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It just I'm a huge Wentz fan. It's not a secret. I love great quarterback, high-level play in 17. As good as Randall Cunningham and Vic, Ron Jaworski, I've seen some great quarterback play here. McNabb, obviously. That 17 years, the best quarterback play I've ever seen in my life in this market.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been able to repeat it. Some because of injury and some he's gotten loose with mechanics. And I think he's lost the fundamentals a little bit here, and it's someone's got to reach him, Geoff, or this thing could actually get worse. Look where they're playing this week. We'll get to that for our Friday show, in a day or so. But
right,
man, it's got to get better real quick.
Now that you mentioned it, I almost want to do like a little comparison of that year, 2017 for Wentz versus 2004 for Donovan, which was just an unbelievable season.
Yes.
Well, they were 7-0 before they lost to Pittsburgh. And
was he the MVP that year?
Who? Donovan? No, he did not win MVP that year.
Okay.
All right. Let's go on to offensive line. I want to talk a little bit about Nate Herbig because, Doug's trying to pull the wool over people and talk about how he's really excited. He saw just as many positives and negatives, and he's gonna work him in there. And then like a day later, not even 24 hours later, Jamon Brown signed and on the way to take over that spot.
Well, but they had to sign someone. They had to sign.
They did, of course, but they didn't sign somebody to compete. Jamon Brown's going to play right guard.
Well, he'll probably overtake, you would think, but one thing about Brown is though, it's concerning. The Rams didn't want him. The Giants have an awful offensive line. They didn't want him. That's not a good sign here. Falcons too.
Yeah,
so that's
I guess. But the Falcons, he was brought in to be a bench player. They had drafted the guard and the tackle in the first round that year, Lindstrom and McGarry.
And he wound up getting benched anyway. But I'm a little bit
then he had to
wary
play because they got hurt.
Yes, but I'm a little wary of this guy. I know he's talented, but he's been on a steady regression.
Oh, of course. He's just better than Nate Herbig.
Yes, I agree.
The one feedback I got in talking with the league personnel guy about Jamon Brown, he also knew about Nate Herbig. He had scouted him. He goes, "Look, Nate's a backup guard in the NFL. That's what he is. He's a backup guard." I'm
not disagreeing, but thinking that Jamon Brown's the answer. You're absolutely right that he's got to be an upgrade over Herbig at this point. But I thought it was interesting that Pederson basically said that Herbig's starting at least this week. So we'll see if that actually happens. But I learned my lesson to doubt. When I laughed when he said Herbig was taking reps. I'm like, there's no way he's starting.
Yeah.
And then when I found out on our way in actually, did I find out Saturday night? I can't remember. Whenever I found out, I was like, no, are they really doing this against that offensive line? But what I've learned is, what's that?
They really did it.
But what I've learned is Jeff Statlin's such a good coach. If he says they should do this, he's not always right, by the way, but he's such a good coach. If he says that's the case.
By the way, just my spidey sense on things, on trying to listen to what people say and feel it out.
Yeah.
I feel like Herbig is not a slam dunk to start right guard.
Really?
I'm not reporting that. I'm just saying that my intuition tells me that despite what Doug said, and Doug used some interesting language himself. He also said, we're going to continue to mix him in there. And when you say mix, that means you're tinkering with a few other guys. I mean,
who else is left though? Peta?
I don't know. Obviously, Pryor is so low on the depth chart for whatever reason. I don't know. I just didn't feel like it was. Maybe they get really desperate and do try to start Jamon Brown. I have no idea.
So one thing before we move on from the offensive line, the way it's explained to me was exactly kind of like what Jason Kelce said after the game. They all didn't play well. All of them had some snaps they'd like to have back.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a lot of. How do you explain this? No one played so badly they should have been taken out of the game.
Right.
All of them had bad snaps.
Right. It wasn't like a Winston Justice type of game, right, where he got abused by Osi Umenyiora. I agree with you. There were communication breakdowns. There was just slide protections that didn't go the right way. There was some holding onto the ball. But going under the radar, Adam, to what you're saying is that Jason Peters didn't play a very good game.
No.
And you can just say, hey, well, he had to move right back to left tackle. Or you could say, I don't know, is this the year that you go from one decline and then a little bit more decline and then a little more decline?
They struggled with the youth, power, and athleticism of that Washington front, which, it's so funny. We're watching the game, right? I see the first quarter. I get home from Goose Island Brewery, and I'm sitting, I actually missed the first 10 minutes, so I had to replay it. So I purposely didn't listen to the Merrill and Mike, just because I didn't want to know what was happening. And I see them go right down. I'm like, this is unbelievable. I guess they're just catching them by surprise, whatever.
Right.
And then they're doing really well. I'm like, this game, I'm shocked. I'm like, this is not what I expected. And then we got what we expected. We got a tight game. And then there was so much happened, Geoff. Their offensive line struggled mightily. Boston Scott didn't play well.
Right.
You mentioned Herbig, and the 5 of them didn't play well. Even Seumalo, who's been so good for the last couple of years, had some snaps he'd like to have back. Kelsey as well. Getting Miles Sanders back, if he does play this week, though, we're pretty – you and I are sharing the same brand. It's not far from a lock. He's got to get through practice without a setback. But he's not going to solve their offensive line problems. Yes, a running back can make an offensive line better and vice versa. But if they don't block better, it's good. That D-line of the Rams is going to destroy them.
Right. No, I hopefully that won't be the case. We'll see what happens with their health situation going forward. Let's talk wide receivers, because it was, I think, probably the group that on offense we were most excited about seeing, and there left a lot to be desired there. Reagor made a great catch, a 55-yard catch. He showed you that he has a second level and that he can catch the ball. That's the catch that Aguilar wasn't making last year. That one that's over, where he's beating the guy and he was in the end zone and it's in his hands, but then it's out of his hands. So good. That's good.
It was a great catch. Ball tracking was unbelievable, but the same thing happened in terms of deep pass. I thought watching it live, it was definitely a Wentz. I'm told it was not. It was Reagor. I know you have some information. I have some information on that route.
Yeah, you're talking about the one right before halftime where
the deep ball was thrown about 65 yards.
Right.
And what happened is Reagor decelerated when he should have accelerated, and it made it look like Carson Wentz overthrew him. No, that was on Reagor. Geoff, and I know you have some information on that.
Well, the information I got, and this kind of applies to both Reagor and Hightower because it's common among rookies, is, at the NFL level, when you're running a route, you have to run that route like the ball is coming to you every single time, even if you don't think it is. And rookies who get picked in the draft are normally used to being the number one option on their team and the ball coming to them all the time, so they get frustrated if it's not. And as you saw, it's not like Hightower and Jalen were getting the ball thrown to him every single time. So like you're mentioning on that route, the route starts, he does not have an explosive release. He doesn't think the ball is coming to him. Then he realizes it is, and that's the impressive part. You see, he could still stack the corner even when he didn't run his fastest, but he knows that he should have run that route as explosively from start to finish as if he knew the ball was coming to him. And the same thing with Hightower. They have to run more professional routes. They have to be.
Yep.
You have to sell the coverage on what you're doing, or else you're going to get eaten up.
Yeah. So I was just going to add that Reagor. This is from talking to people close to him. He's incredibly competitive. I'm sure when he watches the tape, it'll bother him that he didn't run that run correctly.
Mm-hmm.
As we reported right before the game, he would play extensively. He did. He led them in snaps, 59% of the snaps. But again, the Eagles are a 2-10. They're a 12 personnel offense. That's not going to change. We said that before the game. They're going to be still heavy 12. They were. Ertz played 58%, 85% of snaps. Got it 79. I don't see that changing. That's probably why they figure they don't need any more than 5 receivers on their active roster. Sometimes they might even go 4. Probably not 4. That's a little bit risky. But the Jackson thing, again, he did play 54% of snaps. Folks, he's 33 years old. He's 34 in December. He's not going to play 80% of snaps. Where are people getting this? Like, why do they think he'd play 80%? I don't know where that came from.
It took me by surprise that he only played.
But why? Yeah, but with his injury history, and how important he is.
I understand, but I mean, in this case, when you've got 2 rookies and your only other wide receiver who's not a rookie is JJ Arcega-Whiteside, and you need the production, I thought he might play a little more. So for the people who were not, they were disappointed. You're right that he's the only true veteran that they had. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Arcega-Whiteside, he didn't have a catch. I mean, he didn't even have he didn't have a true target.
Yeah, I don't know what his role is.
Yeah, you got to be careful of how much you play Deshaun Jackson. And I know Pederson said we're going to snap. I'm sorry.
That makes sense. I understand that.
Though Pederson did say in his money press conference, after he was asked about it, he's going to up his snaps. Okay, good luck. I hope he doesn't get hurt. I know people think you shouldn't baby players, and I totally understand. But this player and his soft tissue injuries, you got to be careful because you need him. You cannot. This group, in a good way, is very, very young, except for Deshaun, the super older veteran. You got to be careful. You have to have him if you're going to go to the if you're in the playoffs. You must have him.
Yeah, no, you got to have what he brings, no doubt about it. I want to say one last thing on Reagor because I don't want 2 points to be conflated.
Okay.
what I reported is what I reported about both of those rookie wide receivers not always running the sharpest routes and being as explosive. But the interception that Carson threw that was intended for Jalen Reagor, that was not Jalen's fault. And I've heard it said, well, maybe he could have fought to break the pass up. That route was an out route. It was not a curl. It was not a comeback. So when you're running it out, you're breaking hard to the outside. If that ball is thrown to your inside, it's almost impossible when you're running that route to just contort your body enough to be able to, be able to break it up. Carson threw it inside instead of outside.
Gotcha.
That's on Carson. Plain and simple.
I got it. And look, Hightower, who had a phenomenal training camp, as you reported on our show, has got really good football IQ. He just did not show up in this game. He had a very bad drop. He heard footsteps. He can't do that. I know that Troy Apke, I think it was, of the Redskins, the Washington team, hit him after he dropped the football, but he needs to show up. I'm sorry.
I said from Penn State.
Yeah, from Penn State. It's been a good story of development, but the fact of the matter is, they need more out of these guys. I get they're rookies. No, that's an excuse. Get your stuff together, and you got to show up in this game. They have the second game. It's their home debut without fans, but they need these guys. And I hate to say must win against the Rams, Geoff. They cannot go 0-2. I know the division's bad again.
Oh, that would be bad.
Fact of the matter is, I really thought, I didn't think it'd be. I mean, look, the Cowboys lost a close game to the Rams, but fact of the matter is, they need these guys to show up. I think Whiteside's got to get on the stat sheet. They need him. He's their one possession receiver. They have a receiver right now.
Yeah, no, I know. It's oh man, 0-2. Who I can't imagine what it would be like in this city if they started off 0-2. All right, you want to get to the defense?
Well, no, actually, I want to say one thing before we get to defense.
Oh, on Goddard, right?
Oh man, not only was his best game, his run after the catch, we knew this was the case, was off the hook. He had a 34-yard touchdown. He is, and by the way, he led them in pass targets with 9. He is a moose. He is a moose with wheels. This guy can move. This guy, this is what it's funny. I remember talking to the Eagles after they drafted Goddard, and they felt they were onto something with he and Ertz, just to have them together for several years. And we'll see about Zach's contract, but Zach is signed for 2 years. But Goddard, he's been unable to sustain success because of injuries, minor stuff. He had the calf strain, which lasted like almost 3 months, quite frankly.
Right.
And he has a broken thumb now, but he had the surgery, I'm told, but he's playing through it, and he did a great job. Boy, does he add some juice to their pass game. Once they get Deshaun going and Reagor going, then you're going to see something special with this offense if they protect. But this is good that they got Goddard going. This is a big thing for them.
No, I agree. I do think this offense is going to come around. Hopefully, it won't take long, but once they get a little bit more rhythm and consistency and some blocking up front, I have a feeling it's going to come along a little bit quicker than some people are thinking now after that opening day disaster. So let's get to the defense first. I want to remind everybody about our partners at DraftKings. You can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code ITB for a special offer when you sign up. That's code ITB for a special offer when you sign up only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Also, we're going to relaunch our ITB Fantasy League. Okay. So it's going to be open. I guess not enough people got in last week. We will get it out sooner. It's going to be open to the first 50 people who sign up. Apparently last week we made the contest too big, and so it was like too many people to fill up a list. So we reset it, and we will have the link available when most people are listening to this, Wednesday at noon. Okay, a lot of people listen Wednesday morning, but at noon we'll have it all out on our social media accounts. The link to get in and follow us. So I look forward to doing that. I thought I picked a pretty good lineup last week. So
yeah, Derek Carr did not do well for me. He was because I was running out of money.
He didn't? I thought he threw a bunch of touchdowns.
He only threw one. He only had threw one.
I saw they had like 34 points, so I figured maybe he did all right. All right. Eagles defense, pretty good. You know, it's such a Jekyll and Hyde thing, Adam. They held the Washington to fewer first downs, fewer total yards, and a lower yards per gain average than the Eagles had. And they also held Washington to 2 of 9 on third down conversions, which is excellent all across the board. But the one area where they just kind of stunk it up was the red zone. Now, again, they were given short fields, and they were sometimes right back on the field after 2 Carson Wentz interceptions. They went right back on, but they were really good every area except for the red zone.
Yeah, look, the D line for all the injuries did a good job. And remember, Hargrave wasn't playing, and then they lost so many. They lost the 2 defensive ends, and
Right.
The only thing though was it's the entire defense. They didn't get 1 turnover, which is hard to understand, but that those will come. But here's the thing though, and I know that Will Parks didn't play. The thing that they didn't do, and I was a little bit, although they played man in the back end, but the inability to make Haskins make a mistake, that was surprising to me. I thought for sure when when Eagles got up 17-0, I thought, okay, here you go, tee off time. They're gonna get to Haskins, and he threw with a lot of discipline. It was kind of like the last time they played in Washington, when Haskins shocked everybody because he had not been playing well before that, and he played actually very well against the Eagles the first time.
Yeah, I mean, this is to me why the Eagles lost. We could talk about protection. We could talk about no running game. We can talk about this and that. Eagles turned the ball over 3 times. Washington 0 times. Dwayne Haskins made no mistakes. So as good as the defensive line was against the run, and they did, Dwayne got the ball out pretty quickly, and that's kind of why he was inaccurate a lot. But there was just no. They didn't hit him enough. They didn't get. Avonte Maddox had a really good shot to pick off. It was a great kind of match and mirror type thing where he jumps right in front of, I want to say Logan Thomas on a crossing route, but he had his hands on it, couldn't get it. That happens. Unfortunately, we've seen that from Nigel Bradham for the last 3 or 4 years, having your hands on the ball and not being able to get it. But that could have been a game changer right there if he did. Unfortunately, he did not. So, again, not enough turnovers for the Eagles, even in a good defensive effort. Let's talk about the go ahead. I'm sorry. Did you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Go to the linebackers a little bit, because the one thing you could say about what Washington did, and I expected this with Ron Rivera, Adam, and the young quarterback, is they were going to try to run. They were going to try to shorten the game. They were going to try to use Gibson, which they did, and use Peyton Barber, which they did. And they also added a little bit of the gimmicky runs in there with the option and stuff like that. But the linebackers, you'll notice that even though we've talked about the camp that TJ Edwards had, your 2 starting linebackers were Nate Gary and were Duke Riley. Edwards only really came in for base and packages, which are now sub packages. So, but I was told Gary graded out the best of all the linebackers.
Oh, okay. Look, he's a teacher's pet. The linebackers coach loves him, and you know why? Because he executes.
Yes.
He's not very instinctive, but he's a pretty good athlete, former safety. They should completely shut down Washington's run game. The Eagles' run defense has always been good under Schwartz. It's very rare where they've had bad games.
Right.
But I give them credit. They did a good job there. Gibson had a couple nice runs. He had a 20-yarder, which was really nice. But they shut him down. Peyton Barber, the only disappointing thing with the run defense is that Barber got those 2 short yardage touchdowns where they just couldn't get it. Now, I know they lost at one of them. I know Graham was not in the game. That's when they had Avery. Was it Avery on the changeover on the personnel? I was like, why is he out there?
Well, yeah, it was the 4th and 2 play, or 4th and 1, where Rivera went for it and ran a sweep to the right side, and Avery was the left defensive end on that side. It's not like that he was solely responsible. It was such a wide sweep at him that really they got to the corner area and he was able to pick up the first down. But nonetheless, I'm sure they ran to the right because they knew that a 5'11", what is he, 6 foot, 5'11"?
He's 6 feet, between 6'1", but he is jacked up. He's about 250, 255, but he's got a small frame, though. He's not a wide frame.
Right.
Yeah, he's not a guy you really want in there in any short yardage.
No, exactly. And I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but you would imagine that's why they ran to his side. They recognized that the mismatch that they had there. The secondary, I thought, played well without – here's the thing, though. All right. Slay on McLaurin did his job, didn't get beat deep. I think he only gave up 2 catches underneath. Fine, good. They really, you and I can't sit here and act like they were really tested, though.
No, they weren't.
I mean, like, it was Haskins and outside of McLaurin, we're talking about Logan Thomas and Sims is a decent receiver, but like what they're going to see on Sunday with the Rams is a whole. That to me, we'll really have a discussion about the secondary.
I mean, when you look at the Rams, okay, we'll just give you a little bit of a preview. They've got 6 pass targets, okay? 2 tight ends, although Gerald Everett is beat up. He's their move tight end who's super athletic. Mm-hmm. He's his own beater. But Tyler Higbee, who set an NFL record for most 100-yard games by a tight end in the consecutive games last season, to close the season. He was terrific. Sean Jefferson's son, Van, was a second rounder for them. Josh Reynolds, they've done a good job. He's their tallest receiver.
Yeah.
And obviously Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, who just signed his extension. So you know what's coming. They've got the ability to go 11 personnel. I'm sure that's what's coming. The Eagles are going to have to. They're going. You're right. You're absolutely right. They're going to get tested. Logan Thomas. I mean, look, he walked in on that touchdown. That was a coverage bust. I don't know what the heck happened there. They can't have that happen, man. The Eagles have no margin for error right now. A team that's coming in on a impressive win, though, is at home. The only thing, there's no crowd. Doesn't matter. Home and field advantage is absolutely means nothing. The only thing that matters is they have to fly 5.5 hours. Okay, so what?
Hey, does that mean anything either without the fans? Because both Las Vegas and Seattle flew to the East Coast and won. Seattle beat Atlanta and Vegas beat Charlotte.
Before we get out of here, I had a coordinator tell me 2 weeks. I think it's almost 2 weeks. He said it's now coaches versus coaches, players versus players. He said home field means nothing without fans.
Wow,
as you just pointed out, these teams traveled. Seattle destroyed Atlanta. It was never even a game.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. So yeah, you're right. We'll get a better gauge of the Eagles secondary this Sunday. And I look forward to that. What was I going to say? I have one more thing I wanted to go through, but first, got to check out our friends, phlsportsnation.com. They are enhancing the fan experience with their coverage of all 4 Philly teams like nobody else. Follow them on Twitter. They're at PHL Sports Nation. They do great prizes and giveaways as well. I should mention that. Great podcast. So check them out. Our friends at phlsportsnation.com. And one more pause for a word from our sponsors. All right. Adam, one thing that struck me today, and I don't know how long it's going to – I want to address it now before Friday or our pregame show or anything. Yeah. I happen to be looking on DraftKings, our good sponsors, and right now, and as we record this, the Eagles are plus 105. The Rams are favored to win the game by 1, I believe. Rams are favored by 1.
Wow.
And I wonder if the signing of Jamon Brown and then Lane Johnson saying he's going to come back and Miles Sanders might, come up on Friday, Doug say he's going to play. That might move the line a little bit.
To the Eagles. Yeah.
So you've got, or at least to pick them, right? Now you've got a shot to get the Eagles coming off a loss when everybody's down on them to get favorable odds. You can make, 2 for 1 here.
Yeah, my personal line, I would have made the Rams 2.5 point favorite because there's no home field advantage. The only thing is Rams have to travel time zones. I get it. Right. It's a long flight. Right. But right now the Rams look like the much better team. Oh, much better. Okay. They look like the better team. I think that's a little bit of exaggeration by me. I wouldn't say much better, but they clearly look better. So it's only 1 week. You don't want to read in too much. But the fact of the matter is, as we turn the page to Friday, to our next show, when we preview the Rams a lot, we got into a Washington team last week, and now we go to a better team in the Rams. This is going to be a significant challenge for the Eagles. They're beat up physically on both sides of the football. It's not like it's one side; it's both sides.
Right. And
Wentz is battered physically, sacks, and probably mentally a little bit. I say mentally a little bit because if you heard him after the game, I mean he was up front. He knows he didn't play well, and he's really resilient though. That's the one thing you study. When he's not played well, more often than not, he plays better the next game. This is going to be a tough one for him, but you don't want to say it's a must-win, but they pretty much have to win. You don't want to go 0-2, but they are lucky they're in the NFC least.
They very much are. Right now, currently led by the Washington football team. So that's a good way to end this one. That'll do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on YouTube. It's called Sports Talk with Broads. And also check out his work on Twitter at Broads81. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a new Powder Blue podcast, Phillies podcast, with myself and Frank Close and Hunter coming out in the next day or two. So please become a subscriber to the Powder Blue podcast if you're not already. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.